My name is Mukwas Gla, which in my language means white bear. My other name is Douglas Neasloss, and I work as the elected chief for the Kitasoo Hehes Nation, which is a small community on the central coast of British Columbia in a region we call the Great Bear Rainforest. My area, my territory is quite a vast territory. It spans over 13,000 square kilometers, and it's home to the Kitasoo Hehes people. It's an area that we've stewarded for thousands of years, mainly through our governance system, which is our hereditary chiefs. And that knowledge is passed down from generation to generation so that they can take care of it. We've had a number of challenges with Crown governments, both the province and the federal government, over the last 150 years, but we had a major one in the 1990s when the government at the time, the provincial government, issued forest tenures to log out my territory. They called my territory the Mid-Coast Timber Supply Area, and they issued all the licenses to all the companies to log it all out. And it led to some major protest in my community. And I remember I was in grade 10 at the time. We went down to go and listen to this very heated debate between environmental groups and forest companies. And at that time, forest companies were in my community promising 100 jobs, saying, well, if we will hire you guys, let's knock it down together. Environmental groups were tying themselves to the trees to shut down the forest operations. So my leadership at the time invited both groups to the table. My community said, we've always had a plan for our land. We've always had a plan for our waters. But let's hash out something that'll work for everyone. Forest companies want to log, environmental groups want protected areas. And so the environmental groups put a solution on the table, and they said that they would help raise an endowment fund of $60 million, and that could jumpstart stewardship in our community. And we threw around words like conservation-based economy 30 years ago. They went and fundraised $60 million if we would protect some of our territory. So we agreed to protect 55% of our territory, and we would have access to this endowment fund. The environmental group said, we'll give you this money if the feds and the province match this money. So the federal government and provincial government came forward and came up with another $60 million pot, $30 million each. That was used to jumpstart an economy in the remote north. And so we got about a bit over $6 million out of this. And so we decided to take our money that we got through this agreement and invest it in ecotourism. And we live in a beautiful part of the world that has grizzly bears, black bears, probably one of the rarest bears on the planet called the spear bear. So when I was 17 years old, I was now part of helping jumpstart a new industry in my community. And it was one that I could believe in. It was one that I could get behind because I thought it spoke to our values. It was non-extractive. It wasn't just a male-dominated industry. We can hire men, women, and children as a part of our ecotourism operation. And we ran into some challenges as we started to build this business. And I remember one day I was out with a bunch of clients from all around the world, and we were in this beautiful estuary surrounded by 5,000-foot mountains, beautiful estuary, salmon all over the place. And we saw something dark in the river, and we went walking over, and to our surprise, it was a dead grizzly bear. His head was chopped off, his paws were cut off, his fur was taken. And I just thought this was extremely disrespectful. This is a violation of my culture. Everything that we were taught as young people growing up, to have respect, to utilize everything, to not be wasteful. And then I started to think about, from an Indigenous perspective, how come we don't have a say in the management? There's things like the Wildlife Act that First Nations have never had a say in. Then it made me think about the Oceans Act and the Fisheries Act. And we saw a lot of challenges when I was a tour guide, whether it was huge decline in salmon numbers or crazy forestry practices. So in 2010, my nation asked me if I would take on a new role and help jumpstart a stewardship department in my community. And I jumped at the opportunity, and I thought this was a good opportunity to make some positive change. And so I jumped headfirst into the stewardship world. And one of the first things my community asked me to do was to focus on the trophy hunt of bears in the Great Bear Rainforest, and in particular my territory. And so we did. We partnered with all of our other neighboring communities, and the Heiltsuk, and the Newhalk, and the Wekino. We set up a bear working group, and then we approached a larger organization called Coastal First Nations, which is a really powerful group. It's an alliance of 9 First Nations communities in the Great Bear Rainforest. And we asked them for their blessing if we can go speak on behalf of all the coastal communities in the Great Bear. And they all endorsed it. They supported it. The first thing we did is we developed a press release, and we said trophy hunting is banned in the Great Bear Rainforest. Don't waste your money coming here to hunt because it's not going to happen. And if you come, we'll meet you on the water, we'll meet you on the land, but you're not going to shoot our bears anymore. And of course, it caused a lot of controversy in the province. Who has the authority and the jurisdiction to monitor and manage bears? The province said First Nations do not have the authority. And of course, First Nations' response is, of course we have the authority. We've never surrendered our rights, we've never surrendered our title, and we've never signed a treaty, and we're going to continue to implement our stewardship responsibility. The province, of course, came forward with their same predictable response. The bear hunt was based on sound science, and that they had the best Western science that could justify the killing of bears. They said they increased all these protected areas in the Great Bear Rainforest that protected bears, and they also said that trophy hunting was an important part of British Columbia's economy, bringing in $350 million to the province. And so we knew they were full of it and all of those things. And so So we set out to debunk those things, and we went to go look at their science, and we found out a lot of it was based on habitat models, and it wasn't the best sound science. We thought we have to do one better. We have to drive gumboot science, science on the ground, and so we partnered with University of Victoria. We got a bunch of our people out there, and we started driving some of the best science. We partnered with all the other communities in the Great Bear, and we probably have one of the most robust bear studies in British Columbia. Then we went to go look at all the protected areas. They said all these protected areas were supposed to protect bears. Not one of them protected bears. And the third part was their economic argument. And so we looked at that, and we asked the province, what are bears worth in the Great Bear Rainforest? And they couldn't tell us that. So we hired a professor from Stanford University and a group called CREST, and they did an economic analysis. And they basically said the trophy hunt and the resident hunt combined make about $1.1 million. Compared to the 56 tourism operations that employ over 500 people that bring in $15.2 million. That report also said the provincial government actually spends more money managing the hunt than they actually make on the hunt, and so blew their economic numbers out of the water. So in 2017, we made enough noise about this. It was in the media almost every single month, and the province finally agreed to shut down the grizzly bear hunt in the Great Bear Rainforest in 2017, and eventually expanded that to all of the province. And so we were quite excited about that. We knew we weren't finished yet because black bears were still being hunted, and they were still being hunted in the spring and also the fall. And so black bears in my part of the world are pretty unique because they carry a recessive gene that could produce the spirit bear. And so both parents have to have this recessive gene that could produce one of the rarest bears on the planet called the spirit bear. We know these bears have been genetically isolated to the islands in our part of the world, and that's allowed them to thrive. And so we wanted to stop the killing of black bears. And so through science, through our traditional knowledge and local knowledge, 2 years ago, we were finally able to get the province to close down the black bear hunt. And so now my territory is one of the only areas in all of the province where there's zero bear hunting, whether it's for grizzlies, blacks, or spirit bears, and that is something we're extremely proud of. Next, we really wanted to focus on the enforcement side. We still saw a lot of illegal activities in our territory: illegal hunting, illegal fishing, illegal forestry. We caught one guy, cut down a bunch of trees, had it all boomed up, had zero permits. And so we wanted to focus on that. And my community made it very clear. They said, Doug, you can draw lines on a map, but lines on a map do not protect areas. People do. And so they said, get your own people out there. And we did. So we decided to get some money together, buy a vessel, get a uniform, slap a logo, and get our guys having a strong presence in our territory. So we cover our territory for 7 or 8 months out of the year. And we get out there and monitor and patrol. As a result, illegal activities have essentially fallen off the map, which is quite amazing. And so we approached the province and we said, will you guys consider sharing your authority and give us your BC Parks patch? And they said, if you guys can pass all the same training as our park rangers, we'll consider doing this. We put 8 of our guys through this program, and they all passed with flying colors, which was quite amazing. And so now they are the first Indigenous watchmen to have BC Parks Authority, and they have authority under the Parks Act and also under the Wildlife Act. And so they can write a ticket for someone doing something illegal. And this is the first time any government agency has shared their authority. It's the first in the province and the first in the country, and we hope this is going to be a model that's replicated across the country. I think we're going to end up with some of the strongest protected areas around if we continue to follow this model. Now we are shifting our focus into the marine world. In the background, over the last number of years, all of our coastal communities have been working very hard to protect marine protected areas on the British Columbia coast. And there's a whole network of First Nations communities. The difference this time around is we're sitting on the table. We're sitting on the table as a level of governance. We're sitting there with the provincial and federal governments, which is quite massive, a huge change in how we do business together. I think we're going to see some of the largest marine protected areas on our coast, which is quite exciting. And so a big reason why I wanted to come here to TEDx to talk about some of these things, because I want to promote Indigenous. I think Indigenous people are at the front lines. We're at the front lines of conservation and sustainability and stewardship. And stewardship is not just our jobs, it is our lives, and it is our responsibility. So I just want to say, support Indigenous. Thank you.